The champion. Undergunned, underarmored, understand that I do not care. Mechs are designed to be functional. In the Darwinian world of 32nd century combat, aesthetics are a luxury. At best, they're an afterthought once the mechanical designs are finalized, a way to market your mech to your friendly local procurement board. But every once in a while, a mech is truly beautiful, and the champion is beautiful. You'd be forgiven for thinking this is what Freddie Mercury was singing about. Look at these smooth lines. They tell a story of sophistication and, more importantly, speed. And speed was what the champion brought to the table. Now look, is it as fast as a Dasher? No. But also, no one expects you to be a lift driver for tin can HGH abusing meatheads. Born too late to fight in the Reunification War, the champion cut its teeth on small battles and duels in the Periphery and Draconis Combine respectively, and it thrived in that environment. At the more personal scale of that combat, it's hard not to see the mech warrior and a champion as a holovid hero charging in to save the day. Undergunned, but with speed and tactical genius. Winning the day against slower, clumsier, dumb opponents, who perpetually assert that the next battle will be different as they retreat from the field of combat.
Next time, champion! Next time!
The comparatively large torso and arms, combined with seemingly undersized legs, combined with its speed, make this thing look like it's meant to take flight. That the legs are landing gear, meant to be stowed away as it takes off into the wild blue yonder. Yeah, I know, some of you are screaming at your note pewter right now that there's a lamb version of the champion. Oh, good for you. You get a gold star. There you go. There you go. Put it next to your name, and at the end of class, you can trade it in for an Urban Mech coloring book. And looking at both mechs in isolation, the smart money would be that the lamb came first, the styling a concession to the need for aerodynamics and reduced drag. But the land version came surprisingly second, like the Johnny Cash cover of Hurt. This is a case where function followed form. The design that emphasized speed and flight in the classical sense of the word manifests into a real-world flying champion. The champion lamb. A century after the champion's first introduction, the designers at Bergen Industries looked at the smooth lines of the chassis and they knew that it was meant to fly. No cowardly half measures like the jump jets on the Champion C, but full send, fly, or die. The champion was finally unbound by the covetous grasp of gravity, given free rein to do what it was meant to do. But unfortunately, the champion lamb was not meant to be. It was just too heavy. And Sir Isaac Newton will take his angel's share out of your armament and your ass if you try and make something this heavy fly. The conversion gear couldn't handle it, and if the men find out we can shapeshift, they're gonna tell the church. Also, the weapon loadout had to be downsized, namely chucking the LB-10X autocannon like so many burger wrappers out of a trashy person's driver's side window. And as testing went on, spontaneous mid-air disassembly was becoming a problem. Forget what I said earlier, it wasn't fly or die, it was fly and die. The Champion Lamb was an unmitigated disaster from a business viewpoint. The project was cancelled and the prototypes were stashed in a New Dallas warehouse where they could no longer damage the good name of Bergen, or, more importantly, its stock price. Now, how committed Bergen was to this concept is entirely unclear to me. Some sources say this was yet another SLDF double dip, attempting to produce a real, if substandard product. We've heard that story before. While others say it was just a test bed, an exercise in pushing the engineering envelope that just went too far. I'd love to take a trip out to New Dallas someday, see if we can get our eyes on these warlocks. Much like a Coachella porta potty the day after close, New Dallas is basically an uninhabited hot methane hellhole after the Free Worlds League wrecked the terraforming installation. But I've got some insider info that the Bergen warehouse and its contents are still intact, untouched by enterprising scavengers and Succession War nukes alike. You should have let me see her, Captain. We should have done this as men, not with fire. The Champion Lamb was spared the fate of its predecessor, hidden away while the Succession War's Grim Reaper made its miserable rounds, ushering mechs into extinction outside of Blake's blessed art. The Champion didn't die entirely, but its story was all too common. Destroyed factory, massive attrition, Cannibalized for parts, reduced to a status so endangered that I'm surprised Greenpeace didn't show up before its every battle. For as little as 10 C-bills a month, you can help provide much-needed food and shelter for these critically endangered mechs. Your support can preserve their natural habitat of my backyard and protect them from poachers like Cranston Snord. In the case of the Champion, a slim majority of the remaining population resided with the Capellans, but we're talking the low hundreds of chassis, maybe fewer. But as we discussed before, everything old was new again under the mad desperation of the Word of Blake. Not only did they release their new in-box, mint-condition champions from their vacuum-formed plastic confinement in hidden caches throughout their evil empire, but they too became enraptured by the Champion's lethal curves, and they got Bergen's production line up and running again, baby! Could beauty, my lord, have better commerce than with honesty? But real quick, back to the Star League. Bergen Industries bid for the same SLDF contract as Earthworks Griffin. But Bergen dumped all their experience points into a plus 10 lobbying skill, so it didn't matter that the Griffin had all the same capability, lower MSRP, was minus 5 tons, and had jump jets. The fix was in. An initial order for 200 led to an order for thousands, and soon the Champion bloomed like 100 flowers in the gardens of the great houses, before being cut down by the righteously vengeful Troy-built Super Bronco riding mower known as the Succession Wars. The Griffin's look is iconic, and it has a staying power that the Champion can only envy. But it's not beautiful, not in the way the Champion is. Let's talk about the modern version. The CHP C3 of the Champion's a full teardown. Upgrade the lasers to ER mediums, replace the LB-10X with a UAC-10, and controversially replace the SRM-6 for NARC. Now, not everyone likes this because this thing was already undergunned, like bringing a Derringer to the high noon duel with Henry Hair Trigger Sorensen, the quick-draw menace of Calaveras County. But this model adds a C3 system, and I think that makes all the difference. We've seen this a few times where post-Renaissance, new technology helps a new variant better embody the concept of its original model. The changes in the CHP C3 turn the Champion into a light, heavy scout. I know it's an oxymoron. The idea is recon and force, and then bug out when the heat, literal and figurative, gets to be too much, while leaving a little surprise for whoever you tagged with that NARC beacon. Seriously, the Champion has known heat issues, which is why most variants try to cram double heat sinks into this thing, like Southwest Interstellar trying to cram one more row of seats into their 7Z7 dropships. Now, due to an inaccurate portrayal in popular media and the unusual arms, people will tell you that the Champion was repurposed into a war machine from originally being a loader mech, managing cargo, or even functioned as some sort of mech recovery platform. And that is nonsense. The Champion didn't start as a loader mech because you know what's really useful for loading various types of cargoes? Hands! Look, if it's a standard Connex box, then it's better off being unloaded by a gantry crane or moved around by a container hauler. I mean, take a look at the Power Man loader mech, it's got hands. And then we come to the idea of battlefield recovery. This is due to a portrayal of the mech in popular media as having winches on those arms. Once again, you know what would be handy for recovering a mech in the field? Hands! Now look, many a mech has been helped off the field by a lance mate, but usually when it still has some mobility, and either the battle is over or it's a fighting withdrawal. But under most circumstances, if you have one mech down during a battle and another mech trying to recover it, well, now you're down 2 mechs. Combat math ain't mathin', Chief. Much better to keep the operational mech in the fight and have a dedicated recovery vehicle come drag the downed mech to a transport truck. Now look, am I saying that no mech has ever used a winch to recover another mech? Absolutely not. If you're in a guerrilla holdout situation like the GDL on Verthandy, then yeah, a dedicated recovery vehicle is not coming, and you've got to make do with a mech. But in that situation, I'd rather have hands and no winches than winches and no hands. I mean, look, I'm sure someone will have some paracord or something. God, what is it with the paracord? I'm Derek, I'm a prepper, and I wear a paracord bracelet so when Teotihuacan goes down, I'm gonna be ready. Derek, you can't go up a flight of stairs without a breather. How about you prep some cardio workouts? I've got 3,000 rounds of Green Tip 5.56 for my Daniel Defense AR. Okay, but do you have any antibiotics? Because 3,000 bullets isn't going to mean much when you get your first infection from exploring the rubble of the wasteland. Well, I'll just go scavenge at the local pharmacy. Yeah, Derek, you and every other guy with level 3 plates and a $20 airsoft vest and a Punisher trailer hitch cover on your F-150. Where was I? Oh, yeah, sorry, Champion. Let me tell you about the Tukey two-step. So when Comstar was preparing to curb stomp the clans, they created the Clanbuster variant of the Champion. I feel another rant coming on about Clanbuster rants, but I gotta cram it down deep down into the dark pit for now, okay? The CHP-3 and Clanbuster variant has something no other champion had until then. Weapons in the arms! Woo! What a concept! They accomplished this by using the Tukiyid two-step. So, they did this by swapping the Vlar 300 with a 300XL, and then they took two large lasers, they pulled out two Wyverns that were getting the Pulse Laser upgrade as part of their Clanbuster hero training montage, and now the champion's arms are no longer vestigial ablative armor, but actually contain some serious hitting power. Behold, the Tukiyid two-step, baby. Man, the Wyvern, if ever there were a mech who made the champion's population numbers look healthy. Don't worry, I'll be back for you, baby. Your critical donation can mean the difference between these mechs getting a full load of LRMs or ending up in a Clan Seafox bargain bin. Okay, I can't contain it anymore, I gotta talk about it. Clanbusters! Clanbuster variants are the biggest fraud since Justin Chong being a hero of the Capellan Confederation. Crawl your regional mech market and you can't throw a can of Cool and Flush without hitting some stoop-shouldered swindler claiming their mech as a Clanbuster. With coffee breath, a winking smile, and a corruptly guiding hand, they will introduce you to a clapped-out champion and tell you that you can be the owner of history. Oh yeah, this is a Tukiyid special, brother. Clanbuster. You can't find these anymore. Most of them got scrapped by the Republic or destroyed during the Yeehaw. These charlatans will then recite a highly improbable origin story for their Shinola shitbox that will compel young mech warriors raised on the legendary tales of Tukiyid to part ways with 100,000 C-bills over asking and maybe a kidney in order to drive a vaunted Clanbuster. Well, you see, most people don't know this, but Clan Wolf claimed this mech as a Sorla after its pilot was killed, and then it ended up in a Salama unit on some no-name planet. They didn't know what they had, so they sold it for a song to a mercenary unit in the periphery. Traded hands a few times until I saw it in a Republic scrapyard, and I stole it away in the night. Wink. They'll usually have some proof with a low production serial number and a faded Comstar inventory printout, but it's never verigraphed, is it? And the serial number plate is riveted into the cockpit where it's easy to find instead of stamped on one of the central trusses where it'd be hard to get to. That's how you can tell. No, it took damage, so they had to install a replacement plate. Bull. Unless you bought it off a Comstar Acolyte or a Word of Blake shitbag in the mid-3000s, you didn't buy a Clanbuster. You bought a con man, a new hover car, that's what you bought. You bought a grifter catgirl playtime in the Magistracy. And Clanbusters aren't magic. They're not. I don't care how many chants, or smoking sensors, or holy unguents they rubbed on these things. They aren't the equivalent to clan mechs. They aren't full of secret technologies that Comstar was developing. They're upgunned, yes, sometimes up-armored, frequently given 300XL engines to free up tonnage. Small lasers become medium lasers, regular lasers become pulse lasers, autocannons become ultra autocannons, your 4-cylinder Toyota Camry becomes a V6 Toyota Camry. Same car, but with modest improvements. That doesn't mean they didn't help win Tukiyid, though. Anastasius Vogt was a genius, and he was maximizing every percentage, working every angle, squeezing every bit of advantage, because to paraphrase Helmuth von Moltke the Younger, one does not improvise with the fate of billions. So look, Clanbustin' might make you feel good, but odds are you're not driving history, you're driving a lie! But the champion is a beautiful, transcendent lie. Piloting a champion is like being 9 years old on a BMX bike riding down a hill. Feels like a full tank of gas on payday. Like the illusion you can leave everything behind, move to a beach town, get a fun job like scuba instructor, and somehow transcend the fundamental aspects of your personality that are holding you back from your idealized image of yourself. It's freedom, even if it's an illusion. The champion's not going to solve all your problems, but it gives me hope. Even amidst the darkness, we can still build beautiful things.